Hello and welcome everybody to Daryl and Boo's weekly update for Monday, August 9th. How are you doing, Daryl? How was your weekend?
Yeah, I'm doing good. The weekend was fantastic. It was one of those memorable summer weekends that went by too quickly. We're with some friends over on Pender Island.
Nice.
Good buddy of mine that I've known for a long time. They have a family place right on the water and on Pender Island. So for folks who unfamiliar with the Gulf Islands, Pender is one of the Gulf Islands. Take a couple of ferries to get over there, but it's a short trip. And relatively small island, but it's got for one of the smaller Gulf Islands, it's actually got lots going on. There's a couple of great little restaurants there. There's of course a marina and a little resort in there that are absolutely beautiful. But anyways, it was just a nice, relaxing weekend. Kind of got out on the scooters and did a bit of a ride. Went for a couple runs, but generally just kind of enjoyed ourselves around the place. Beautiful view right on the water with kind of arbutus trees surrounding it, and pretty magical spot. So nice. It was nice. How about yourself?
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, we were camping this weekend, so we went out to Agassiz. Friend of ours, her brother started to invest in campsites to build sort of a network of, if folks in the US are familiar with like a KOA, just like a huge network of family-friendly campsites. I think he's trying to build that kind of thing in Canada. We don't really have that in Canada, like as far as like a big network. I think a lot of independent campsites have done a great job of making things really family friendly and fun, like doing day things for the kids and whatnot, which you don't really get at most of the provincial type campsites. So we were doing that. And this was a get together with all of my in-laws, which was the first time we were all able to get together since lockdowns. And so my sister-in-law and her family, brother-in-law and his wife, and my in-laws had come down from Vernon. Unfortunately, Vernon was put onto evacuation notice. And so on Saturday, they had to jet out early in the morning there. They were taken off evacuation notice, I think by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But at that point, we were only staying till Sunday. So it was kind of too late for them to jump back in. So that was too bad, but we still at least got to spend 24 hours-ish with them nonetheless.
Yeah, that was a little bit scary. I know obviously your family is there, and I think you've got some property yourself there too. So I was thinking about that over the weekend.
Yeah, you've probably seen some of the pictures, but there's White Rock Lake, I think it is. A lot of pictures of that fire. And the last time we were up in Vernon, we were at a little beach cove type thing where those pictures were being taken. And I just can't imagine, like, I have pictures looking at this beautiful setting of the lake and the other side of the lake and the trees and whatnot. And it was just all red in the pictures from Friday and early Saturday. So
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. We're going to pray for some rain here coming up in the next couple of weeks, hopefully.
Yeah. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on our guest in a second here. This week we have on Katie Newbold, and I thought it would be really cool to have her on because I think it's more than a coincidence at this point, but we have all this alumni that comes on to the Daryl and Boo show, and very quickly their careers are on this rocket ship trajectory. And so Katie is one of them. We'll bring her on.
Yeah.
Katie, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Very good. Very good. Katie, when you were last on, you were an intern at F5, or you're doing a co-op program with F5, and you are now a full-time employee with F5?
I am. Yes. I've been working now for F5 full time for about a little over a month, I think. So it's been great so far, and it's been fun to be back. Nice to have some of those connections that I already formed last summer still, exist this time around, and meet a whole bunch of new people. So it's been great so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you are a software engineer with F5?
Yeah, so I shifted gears a little bit. Last summer, I was interning with F5 Labs, which was a fantastic experience. And as we were kind of figuring out where I was going to end up for a full-time kind of return offer position, I knew I wanted to gear myself a little bit more in the traditional direction of being a software engineer by name. And so I worked a lot with my manager from last summer, the recruiting team, which was fantastic at F5, to actually move into the engineering department specifically. So now, instead of working for F5 Labs, I work on the Big IP SBK team, which has been very interesting to do so far. So it's been good. It's a big learning curve, as I'm sure any new job is, but it's one that's been very fun as well.
Yeah. Exciting. I remember, wow, it was probably close to a year ago that you were kind enough to join us on this little program that we have here. And remember leaving that specifically saying, wow, we really got to do our best to make sure that we keep her when her internship is done. So yeah, great to hear that you've decided to stay with F5 and join us full time. So that's great news.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. It was an interesting journey to a certain extent to get into the position I am now, because when I had initially signed my full-time offer with F5, I actually was signed on to the Beacon team specifically, which was very interesting. And anyways, signed with them. And then I was back in contact with recruiting in like March or so, asking about COVID stuff and whether or not people were starting in person or if it was all going to be online. And I found out that the team I had initially signed to was going to get reorganized. And so I needed to find a new team to work on, actually, because, well, I didn't have to specifically. We had to work together to find a new team. And anyways, so that was an interesting process, but I thought it was also unique because I almost got to have some choice in where I wanted to go, and got to meet a number of different hiring managers and speak to people on different teams and see what's going to be the best fit. So it's a very unique opportunity, and I'm glad that everybody was able to be so flexible with me and help provide, all these opportunities to find that best match.
Nice.
Really cool. And now when, if we back up a little bit, were you looking, was F5 your first choice? You don't have to say whether or not what other companies you might have been looking at, but I assume, there was other companies that could have been in consideration, or probably after you graduated there, and how you came about to choosing to stick with F5.
Yeah, well, I had definitely had truly like one of the best experience I could have asked for in my internship last summer. And what really stuck out to me about F5 specifically was the company culture, and knowing that everybody here was, I think, so supportive of my individual goals, my career goals, like my academic goals, knowing that I was going into another year of school. And that kind of community, I think, that I was exposed to from anybody I had met at the company, anybody I had, networked with or gotten coffee with or actually worked with during my internship, really was something that I didn't want to kind of let go of. I felt that was really unique. And so I during my senior year of college, I could have perhaps looked a little harder to try and find other companies, but I knew I was really happy with F5 and was going to have a fantastic time coming back if I accepted that return offer. So it was a very easy decision to say yes.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear because obviously when you're at your age, you haven't had the opportunity to work with a whole bunch of different companies and see what different cultures are like. But I have to agree with you, F5 is pretty unique in that regard. So it's nice that you kind of recognize that and took that into such consideration and when you're making your choice. So very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, very neat. And did you have any former friends at school that also looked at F5 as well, or they got into similar positions at other companies? How does the hiring market look like?
Yeah, well, it's definitely still very hot for people graduating with technology degrees. I would say I went to Johns Hopkins, which has many different major offerings and whatnot, but certainly you do see, I think, the students who graduated getting a degree in like computer science or some other sort of engineering are the ones who more quickly find jobs. Not that there aren't jobs for everybody else, but I think a lot of the tech jobs just sign so early.
Yeah.
So there's certainly a lot of good opportunities, and everybody's looking for software engineers, especially right now, which has also been making it a very interesting market because companies that you maybe wouldn't have thought of needing software engineers or needing a technology team are looking for people to fill those roles as well. So there's a lot of exciting opportunities, and it was an odd year of school, certainly having it be a COVID year. It was all online. So all of our recruiting processes and stuff like that were also online. But for the most part, I think everybody that I went to school with and all my friends are very happy with where they've ended up so far post-grad. And I'm sure we'll still see things shift, over the next couple of years as people figure out what they really like.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, and actually, speaking of like starting during COVID times, is there going to be, and I would assume you're going to be remote for the time being. Is there any sort of assumption that you would actually head into an office at some point, or go to one of the nearest F5 offices, or are you going to stay remote?
So I moved to Seattle in early July, late June, early July. So I'm currently living here now. And actually for the past couple of weeks, I've been going in person to the F5 Tower, which has been really fun. They opened it back up. So I just really like that and having that separation of home and work. Currently I'm at home today, and it's nice to have that flexibility to almost pick and choose the days that I wish to go in person and the days that I wish to stay at home. So I've really been enjoying that so far. It's been fun to get to also meet the other people who choose to come into the office as well. And so it's definitely, as long as it's something we're able to do and it's safe to do so, definitely something that I'll continue to do on and off throughout all of the weeks because I enjoy it. It's nice to have something that makes working feel a little bit more real than just doing it at home.
Yeah, very true. A nice space, which we still have not been. I don't think you've been through, but I know I haven't been. So it's now a couple of years old, and definitely looking forward to getting down there and checking it out when borders open up and travel is more safe, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty empty, I would say. A lot of people have very much enjoyed working from home and the flexibility that provides them. So there's not too many people coming into the office every day, but it is fun to go and see, a new person, a new face every once in a while and meet them and learn what they do for work too. Because sometimes I think when you're working remote, you can truly only know so much about like people that you're actually working with directly and whatnot. And it's a lot more effort to kind of have those random interactions. So it's fun to get to go do that in the office.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
very cool. And was moving to Seattle part of your plan, or was that just kind of part of the job?
Yeah, it was definitely part of the plan. I didn't really want to stay in Baltimore specifically. There's no reason really to be there after graduation. And I wanted to come and have the opportunity to go in person to work when I knew inevitably that was going to become an option. And it's been really fun to explore Seattle as well and explore the neighborhoods. I live in Fremont currently, if you guys are familiar with the Seattle area. So I've been thoroughly enjoying that and exploring the surrounding area. The weather's been so nice lately. So it's been a good shift, I think, after graduation to kind of go and start my official adulthood in a new city and making connections and whatnot.
Yeah. Seattle's a great place. Obviously, it's kind of like our U.S. neighbor for sure, and our adopted U.S. home up in Vancouver. But I love all visiting Seattle. It's a great spot.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, very cool. You'll be able to come up to Canada as of yesterday, actually.
Yes, I've heard. Vancouver's on my list of places to come and visit. I think I went once when I was a kid with my family, but it's been a very, very long time since I've been to Canada. And I mean, obviously, pandemic too, that certainly has pushed things out. So I'm excited to be very close by and get to explore a little bit more. I have to get a new ID so I can have the advanced or the extended ID or whatever that allows you to cross the border in Washington without having to bring your passport along. So
Yeah. Yeah, and you've got a number of good options if you live in Seattle or vice versa. There's a float plane in and out of the two cities. You can take the Clipper over to Victoria, which is a beautiful little spot, and then make your way over to Vancouver via ferry. So, yeah, a number of great ways. And of course, just a couple hour drive up to the I-5.
Yeah. Cool. Lots to look forward to for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So a couple news articles that I have curated, and I think a couple of them are kind of relevant to what we've been chatting about here. This one was an interesting one in that it had a different headline on where I found it, but Wall Street's hottest commodity, college grads with Excel skills. And this kind of speaks to the job market right now. Base pay for entry-level analysts and bankers going up by 17%. First-year analysts making $110,000 US dollar, and they called this work donkey work.
Jeez.
But there's a sudden shortage of young Excel whizzes to do the donkey work, and so, man, if you come out of college just with Excel, you can hit up at one of these banks and make 110 grand a year.
Banks definitely, they do have a lot of pull. There's a lot of, at my college especially, there's a lot of economics majors and whatnot, and people interested in going to work for banks like JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs, whatnot, or other students I know who do accounting kind of related work, and they basically, their degree is a lot of Excel work. So certainly they're definitely in high demand because it's helpful to have.
Amazing. Excel has stood the test of time. You would think there'd be something else kind of taking its place, but it's still there and obviously still very relevant.
Yeah, I still just struggle with a pivot table, but
yeah,
I guess that I won't cut it for one of these jobs.
No, exactly.
Let's see here. We got another article here. Amazon. So this is a record fine, I guess, a GDPR fine of 888 million euro, actually. I think that was this 746 million euro. I think that's the US dollar amount is 888 million. So GDPR is not just about having a breach, but the actual use of the data itself. I guess Amazon was in violation of how they're using some of the data, and they face this fine, which is pretty big. And for the amount of data that they have, I guess the GDPR folks took it pretty seriously.
Interesting to see these, and you wonder if these fines actually get paid or how quickly they get paid. I'm sure Amazon could drag these things out somehow, but hopefully they're just, they pay up in short order and take responsibility, but don't really hear that side of it, I guess.
Yeah, pretty, when you think about how much Alexa is probably listening to, there's a lot of ability to really abuse some of this stuff. So it doesn't have detail on what they were exactly doing there, but yeah, kind of makes you a little bit fearful of those little devices.
Yeah, it almost feels like it's inevitable, and they're going to capture your data one way or the other. So no matter what you do or how vigilant you are, it seems like a losing battle.
Yeah. It's been certainly an interesting, I think, discourse to have over the past couple years, especially in the US too. We're seeing a lot of these issues be brought in front of the government, the Senate, Supreme Court, stuff like that on data privacy and how these companies are using it. And I think it brings up a lot of interesting questions on who should be responsible for the data and if we should trust these companies with our data, if you should trust the government with the data, because, at the end of the day, everybody, I think, has their own agenda with it. And it's hard to know what exactly is the best way to go about that. At least everybody has a different opinion on it, perhaps. It's the best way to say that. But anyways.
Yep. Um, this actually was brought up a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about how Richard Branson had made his way up into space there, or close to, depending on how you look at it. And he had sold out of all of these tickets they initially offered. Now, the initial price of a ticket for that Virgin Galactic flight, $250,000, they were released again with a new price of $450,000 now. So 250 all of a sudden looks like a good deal.
Yeah, $250,000 for a flight. And I'm sure they'll probably sell out at these ones too. That's a scary thing.
Yeah. So need a few friends that are really good at Excel. Pool your money together, work for a year at JP Morgan, and come away with one of you can kind of go rock, paper, scissors on your ticket to space.
Yeah, exciting times.
Yeah. This one here is, now I don't know how much time you spent in dorm rooms where you had to do your own dishes, Katie. I actually had an apartment a while back now that did not have a dishwasher, and you realize how quickly you miss it. This is a countertop dishwasher.
That's pretty handy invention. I didn't have a dishwasher until my last year of college. It was always doing the dishes by hand, which isn't that big of a deal, but can just sometimes get tiring after, like, cooking some big meal or something. The last thing you want to do is wash your fork, but somebody has to do it. Otherwise it's just going to sit in the sink for days. So
that's I think smart invention by the looks of things. I guess it has to be plumbed in somehow, but
no. So good question. So you actually, I'll show you. I looked into this because this could be very handy for my travel trailer. You actually, all you do is plug it in, but you just pour the water into it before the load. Stick the top on, and I guess some soap somewhere, and then off you go. So apparently it's really energy efficient as well. Doesn't take up a lot of space, because it's not plumbed into some of the ones that you would have to have that are tabletop. You actually have to hook it up into your sink tap. And so there's no messing around with that either. So it's pretty slick.
Yeah, really. Does that save more water than, I guess, like for how many dishes you would be washing, for example? Do you know if it saves more water than the traditional dishwasher or doing them by hand?
I think it mentioned that as well. Yeah. This is eco.
Yeah, all these inventions of just taking something that has been around forever and seemingly doing an adequate job and then rethinking it a little bit, always impressive. But yeah, you're right. This is a great idea in a number of different ways.
Yeah, you can think of applications to this as far as camping. For me, you could. I think of some of the micro apartments that people are getting into now in places like Seattle and Vancouver, and people are, their first place might be like a 250 square foot, 350 square foot apartment where they might have to sacrifice something like a dishwasher. That could be a possibility there as well.
Yeah, I'm sure it will just get even more different variations of this. So very cool.
Yeah. And I think not having a dishwasher, I can attribute to when I cook, I am very cognizant of how many dishes I use. And so I make sure that I'm, where possible, I reuse the same dish for certain things where it makes sense. If there wasn't any raw food that was touching it or anything, I'll try to do stuff so that by the time I'm actually done cooking, the dishes are pretty much done as well. Like any sort of downtime that I'm waiting for something, then I'll quickly scrub some dishes and either get them in the dishwasher or clean them and dry them and whatnot. So that taught me a lot. I think not having a dishwasher, but having a dishwasher like this would be pretty cool.
Yeah, we have the same style. I'm not one of those Italian chefs who has 20 different pots and pans and dishes kind of all over the place when they're all done. I like to be clean as you go.
Totally. So another one here. Where was it? Oh, Zoom reached an $85 million settlement on two things. There was a violation of user privacy by sharing data with third parties, namely, I think it was Facebook and LinkedIn. Some data was shared with them without permission, and enabling Zoom bombing incidents, which I guess was just the result of not having enough security or requiring passwords on meetings and whatnot. And I guess Zoom being blamed for not doing enough around that. And so they were fined $85 million, which means if you were a subscriber at that time, I guess you get a 15% off subscription of a $25 if the lawsuit achieves class action status. So yeah. Katie, you were in school during this time. Was there any Zoom bombings during any of your classes that you can recall? They seem to be mostly based on or at universities that was happening.
Yeah, no, not that I ever witnessed, at least. I didn't even really hear about it too often. People were pretty respectful, I think, with the Zoom links and whatnot. And also we were all busy with our own classes. Nobody had time to be jumping into other Zoom meetings because we had our own things to do. So it wasn't too much of an issue, but I do remember hearing a lot about it, especially in the beginning of the fall semester when Zoom school was still pretty new. And, people found it very entertaining to do things like this.
Yeah, well, Zoom can afford to pay that now. It's a pretty amazing success story from where they came from to where they are now. I've got a good friend of mine who works he was at Cisco, and he left Cisco to go over to a company called 5nines, which is basically a software-defined call center company, and they just got acquired by Zoom a couple of weeks ago.
Oh wow!
So, yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yep.
All right. Last article I think we got time for here, and not because you're American, Katie, but we have to bring this up. Canada upset the US in the Olympics and then went on to win the gold medal. So pretty cool.
Yeah. Big news for us up here in Canada. This person right here, who's the captain of the Canadian team. She's from Burnaby, just basically right where I live. And I think she has the record for the most international goals. In fact, I'm pretty certain she does the most international goals in all of soccer, men's and women's. So she's just been an incredible player and a huge ambassador for sports in general in Canada. So yeah, pretty cool, because I think US had beaten Canada every single game. I don't know if they'd ever beaten them in any sort of meaningful tournament. So it was like 30 or 40 losses in a row. So yeah, this was big news.
Yeah, well, congratulations.
Yeah,
the US women's soccer team they've really gained a lot of traction and a huge following in probably the past 5 to 7 years or so, because they've obviously been super dominant on the world stage. So it was interesting to kind of get to watch some of these matches and see everything happen and unfold. I think perhaps even a lot of people anticipated that they were going to go in and win that gold medal. So I'm sure it's very exciting to get to watch as Canadians to see Canada take that gold medal. Yeah,
it really was. Were you a soccer player at all at any point?
Only for a little bit when I was younger. I actually ran cross country and track as my main sports as I got older. And I still do a tiny bit of that, like racing and stuff like that, but no soccer, but it was fun. It's fun to watch. I had a lot of friends who did it as well. So, it always kept it entertaining.
Yeah. One of the benefits of going to university or college in the US is just the whole sports thing. It's bigger than pro sports. So, nice thing to enjoy.
Yeah, cool. We're right at 11:30 here, so thank you, Katie, for joining us, and it'll be really exciting to watch your career grow at F5, and just really glad that you chose to stick with us.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, thanks for having me back on the show. It's great to get to chat with you guys again, and hopefully I'll get to see you down in Seattle sometime soon, or up in Vancouver perhaps, now that, well, we'll see what happens, for the next couple of weeks, but with borders opening and whatnot. So
yeah,
thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sure.
Great to see you, Katie.
All right. See you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.